This videos briefly describes what a user story is and how to build one. Let's see what a user story is. A user story is a metaphor for the work being done, not a full description of the work. User stories are short descriptions of functionality told from the user's perspective. The focus is on the business problem that needs to be solved, not the solution to that problem. The user story describes the type of user, the who, what he wants and why. In summary, a user story is essentially a high-level definition of what the software should be capable of doing. A user story should always contain three elements: the type of user role or persona, the action or problem scenario, and the benefits or value scenario. A persona defines an archetypical user of a system, an example of the kind of person who would interact with it. In other words, the persona is a vivid, humanized, yet operational description of your user. The idea is that if you want to design effective software, then it needs to be designed for a specific person. The action is what the persona is going to do. It is the goal the persona wants to achieve, or the problem the character wants to see solved by using the product. The benefits are the reasons why the persona performs a specific action or solve a problem scenario. It is the why of the user story. Acceptance criteria are an integral part of user stories. When they pass, we know the story is complete and functions as expected. The main scope of acceptance criteria are: define the boundaries for a user story/feature. Help the product owner answer what they need in order for this feature to provide value. Typically these are the minimum functional requirements. Ensures the team does not forget important edge cases and considerations. Help the team gain a shared understanding of the story/feature. Help developers and testers to derive tests. Help developers know when to stop adding functionality to a story. The test for determining whether or not a story is well understood and ready for the team to begin working on it is the INVEST acronym. I like independent. The solution can be implemented by the team independently of other stories. The team should be expected to break technical dependencies as often as possible. This may take some creative thinking and problem solving as well as the agile technical practices such as refactoring. And like negotiable. The scope of work should have some flex and not be pinned down like a traditional requirements specification. As well, the solution for the story is not prescribed by the story and is open to discussion and collaboration, with the final decision for technical implementation being reserved for the development team. V like valuable. The business value of the story, the why, should be clearly understood by all. Note that the why does not necessarily need to be from the perspective of the user. Why can address a business need of the customer without necessarily providing a direct, valuable result to the end user. All stories should be connected to clear business goals. This does not mean that a single user story needs to be a marketable feature on its own. Like estimable. The team should understand the story well enough to be able to estimate the complexity of the work and the effort required to deliver the story as a potentially shippable increment of functionality. This does not mean that the team needs to understand all the details of implementation in order to estimate the user story. S like small. The item should be small enough that the team can deliver a potentially shippable increment of functionality within a single sprint. In fact, this should be considered as the maximum size allowable for any product backlog item as it gets close to the top of the product backlog. T like testable. Everyone should understand and agree on how the completion of the story will be verified. The definition of done is one way of establishing this. If everyone agrees that the story can be implemented in a way that satisfies the current definition of done in a single sprint and this definition of done includes some kind of user acceptance test, then the story can be considered testable. One of the most common struggles faced by Agile teams is the need to split user stories. Here are some useful strategies to split Agile user stories. Workflow split. Does the story describes a workflow? Operations split. Does the story include multiple operations, such as configuring or managing something. Business rule variations. Does the story has a variety of business rules? Variation in data. Does the use story do the same thing to different data? Interface variations. Does the story has a complex interface or get the same data from multiple interfaces? Major effort. When you split a story, are the split stories similar in difficulty? Simple/complex. Does the story has a simple core that provides most the value and/or learning? Defer performance. Does the story get much of its complexity from non-functional requirements such performance?